Thank you for staying with us. Now, let's look at this law against ransom payment. Last month, the Senate passed an amendment to the Terrorism Prevention Act of 2013, which prohibits ransom payment to kidnappers. Yeah, like I said to Ayo when he read it at the beginning of the segment, yeah, it's okay for you to say your brother wasn't the one who was kidnapped, your father wasn't the one who was kidnapped, so you're telling me not to pay ransom. So how do you plan to bring my father back home to me?
I'm not the one to ask.
He can't even answer.
I can't answer that question, please.
Okay. Well, we have a panel of security experts this morning who are going to look at this with us this morning, and we're going to discuss this at length. It's my pleasure to welcome in our studio in Lagos the former Regional Vice President, ACES, Seyi Adetayo. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. And we have Mrs Thompson joining us via Zoom. Here in Vancouver. Oh, you don't want to come back home?
Kindly unmute so we can hear you.
Ooh. Yes, I'll be back before you blink your eyes. It's a pleasure to hear your voice.
I just blinked. All right. You're not back.
Yes, let me begin with you, Seyi. Now, what do you think about this law?
Well, it's a good law, but rather coming too late. We've allowed ransom payments to have gained roots in the country and made kidnapping a very big business. It's now a multi-million-dollar business in Nigeria. But for the family of the victim, it's a catch-22 situation. Yes. Either way, none is presenting good options. If you pay ransom, you get arrested. If you don't pay ransom, your family member get killed. So,
but sometimes you pay and your family member still get
killed. So most cases, in those situations, people don't usually ask for proof of life before they make payment. At times the victim must have been shot, about to die, then they agree on a particular sum of money, they collect the money and then throw the body out there. But usually, is even escape for her, that is kidnapped for ransom, their aim is to get money out of it. And it has become a big business in Nigeria. We've allowed this to fester, and now we're in a situation where it is very, very difficult to control, except we begin to put some state machinery, to activate some state machinery and make criminality not to be motivating anymore, because right now crime pays in Nigeria, and the government is responsible. Most importantly, the state governments are responsible for the level which crime has actually gone. You may want to ask why I'm blaming state government. From Amnesty International report just last month or so, states that we have about 3,036 are waiting on death row inmates in Nigerian prison. These are those whose case has been finalized. And the reason why we're having this, we still have those that have been, convicted and condemned to death, but they are still trying to appeal. But we are, for those who are currently in the prison, not the ones that escaped in Edo or Imo, but those that are currently in prison are 3,056 of them. Now, these are people that have committed crimes, that they are the one trying to train others in the prison, making them to be hardened criminals. And when people see that when I commit crime, even if I'm sentenced to death, they will not eventually kill me. In the last 15 years, we've only executed 7. Since 2007 till date, only 7 condemned criminals. Only 7. And when we continue to, at the end of the day, these people will be plotting how a jailbreak will come. And the moment they have one, they are back. That's the reason why we say the problem in Southeast today. Majority of the guys that are currently killing in Southeast are those guys who escaped from Igbo prison. Those who escaped from Kogi prison break, Edo prison break, they are from Southeast Eastern origin. They are back to their trenches and they are committing all these heinous crimes.
How do you know that the ones from Edo are also, from the Southeast?
They are the first to be broken out of prison. And then we saw cases where some of them actually went back to their villages and killed the people who actually put them in prison.
Oh, God.
The reports are there.
Pastor Oladi Thompson, do you agree with Mr. Adetayo here that it's a good law, but it has come too late? Or should I say not too, rather late?
Okay, I think his premise is sound. But again, when we want to look at issues like this, it's good for us to situate them first so that we don't end up with a tunnel vision. First of all, the policy of non-negotiation primarily is a policy that I think it was 1973, Richard Nixon, I think then was the president of America. And some hostages were taken in Khartoum, including 3 Westerners, by some Palestinian terrorist organization. And when they got on the phone to the President Nixon, he was the one who, that famous phrase, "We don't negotiate with terrorists." And when he made that statement, it sort of became the standard mantra. And it's actually the US and the UK that have pushed that policy the most. Nations like France, Spain, and these other countries, when it comes to terrorism, because I want us to be very careful, because enacting a law that is focused as helping in this war against terror is different from looking at the general issue of kidnappings. What we have in Nigeria that's made kidnapping rampant and common, really and truly, is because we're involved in a war against terror. Now, the challenge we have here is this. Before any nation can make a law for non-negotiation with terrorists or kidnappers, 2 things have to be very, very clear. Once those 2 things are not clear, it will be very unfair to the people. You see, I was tempted to send you a phone conversation of negotiations with families whose children have been kidnapped. Don't forget that my constituency was the first to be attacked by this line of terrorism. So if I played you a phone conversation to see the way they are dealing with the kidnapped persons in the background, haranguing the families to bring money, or else your son, your daughter will die, you're going to find out that we are going to approach this matter with a lot more gravitas than we are looking at it right now. Even as we are speaking right now, I want to tell you something. This conversation is part of the war against terror, if we situate it properly. Why do I say so? The people who are sponsoring terrorism are listening. Those whose people have been kidnapped are listening. The way we granulate this affects a lot of the key players, including moles who are in government, moles in security, who want to hear exactly how is the public processing this. So you're going to find out that we are going to have to do something, do ourselves a favor in Nigeria. One, we can't blindly, without thinking, continue to follow foreign nations doing things because people do it. Before you pass this kind of law, there's something you must have in place in any country. And what is that? You must have a value system that has already given premium value to the life of your citizen. Now, if you have a reputation of defending the lives of your citizens to the hilt, this has nothing to do with what is written on paper right now. We're talking about the practice. You have a reputation that you touch a Nigerian anywhere in the world, and you have 200 million of us to reckon with, because we will not let you go until you give account for messing up in Nigeria. Then you find out that when such a law is put into place, because the life of every citizen has been highly valued. Now, if you want to put that kind of law into place and you're using, the organs of government, you have governors who have gone out to appease, not even pay kidnappers. You have soldiers who are kidnapped, police officers that were kidnapped. No matter what anybody says, and the theory that is going out there, ransoms were paid. So he was right in saying that this is coming a bit late, which is why you need to like granulate deeply. Why is this coming now? Who are the actors behind it? Now, are they planning to launch a campaign to give value to the life of the Nigerian citizen? Number one. Number two, are they planning another campaign, major campaign, to ideate, introduce an ideology into Nigeria that makes the young Nigerian, the citizen, the father whose daughter has been kidnapped, the wife whose husband has been taken, that makes them to say, I believe in Nigeria. There's a value, there's a vision, there's a place we are going. Now, if this is the price that is going to cost my family to be part of the idea, the visionary future of Nigeria, then maybe with all pain, we're going to take this. Then again, before you do this kind of thing, I would have expected that with the rampant way this thing has been going on, because I can tell you, I know the people who have been involved personally. I'm talking about live conversations. I'm talking about, practical issues here now. I mean, if your daughter, your son, was the one taken, all this professional talk will take up the value. Now, it is not right to pay.
Oh dear.
I believe that you are trying to unmute or something, because that suddenly went off. But while you're dealing with that, Pastor Thompson, let me ask you, Mr. Adetayo. Now, he said something that is quite striking, which is that various publics are listening, trying to pick which one favors them, which one doesn't favor them. But the angle of that phone conversation with terrorists that he mentioned is brought the message home, I would say, because, I mean, you're far away, let's just, hypothesize. You're far away in maybe in Dubai or Khartoum or somewhere, or in Rwanda, and then you just hear a teacher over the phone beating your child. Beating. You put the child in the school. This is not a kidnap situation. No. You put your child in the school, and you can hear your child being spanked, being beaten for one thing or the other, justifiable or otherwise. It definitely brings the message, the picture of the kidnap situation home. Do you think that picture came into play when the considerations for this adjustment to the Terrorism Prevention Act?
You see, the law for our loved ones takes principal consideration when we are faced with things like this. I think we've gone past the level that Pastor Thompson is trying to paint here. Even America, they pay ransom. The biggest player in the industry today, AIG of the US, East Coast of the UK, that the biggest K for her ransom payment under insurance policy in the world. We need to be realistic here when we're dealing. It's a big business globally. And you see, 75% of Fortune 500 companies, the records are there. You can check. They have a kidnap for ransom insurance policy. That, because they're operating in difficult areas. And this insurance company steps in the moment this thing happens. In spite of America, we don't negotiate with terrorists. You see, when it comes to, welfare of your organization, of your employees, your family members, comes first. And that is what we're seeing playing here in Nigeria. They've gone to a level where families don't even report to police anymore. They'll quickly talk to the kidnappers, pay ransom, and first of all, secure the release of their loved ones before they now start talking to the police. That's why I said that it's coming rather too late. And for us to be able to address this, we need to actually look at our criminal justice system. It is already almost collapsed. If it's taking 3, 5, 10 years to prosecute a kidnapper, then we're in trouble. But if we can quickly dispense off of all these cases, and they know, and we'll see how, you know, those who have been arrested and prosecuted for kidnap have been, you know, handled immediately. Others will be discouraged and say, oh, if a moment I'm caught within 3 or 5 months, my case is determined. And then, so we have to show people that there is punishment for a crime. If you commit this crime, there is repercussion for it. There is none in the country. That is the problem that we're having right now. Everybody, okay, look at elections yesterday. People are killing people openly. Why? And the same people, you see them receiving political appointment tomorrow.
Sorry.
That's the problem we're having.
Where did this happen?
Election where?
Primary elections that are happening in the country, with their pictures. And in Alimosho, somebody was killed. The pictures are there on social media. The video of the attacks. These people are carrying out this thing right there in public care. There are videos. You see the same person carrying out or committing this crime. Tomorrow is holding one party positions or the other. That is the nature, that is the level we are in this country today. Crime space, and you see those following those warlords, and they see that their leaders are being rewarded for thuggery, for being executioner. They also believe that when they go out to go and kill, it will help them to rise in rank. We are paying crimes and criminality in Nigeria, and that's the reason why this thing is going on. We need to actually address our criminal justice system, and it has to start with, one, the police, because the police actually they are responsible for maintenance of law and order, arrest and charging people. Then we also need to look at the court system. Our court system is very bad. Then we also need to look at our prison system. See, these three components of our criminal justice system must be addressed holistically.
Essentially, you're saying that even though it came too late in the day, even the structures that can help this law to stand on its 2 feet, they are not strong enough. Okay. Well, Pastor Thompson, you were making some point before the interruption that we had. You may want to land, yes, you may want to land on that. But and then you also painted that picture, you know, quite clearly to us that those who have interests in these issues, they are listening, they are watching, and they are trying to find how they will granulate these issues to the advantage or disadvantage of any of the parties involved. Is there a future where some of the issues that are troubling, and to use one of your words, bedeviling our system, is there a future where we don't see them as prominent and as strong, as effective on our system anymore?
But I think what this brings us to, one counsel I want to give us, because of factors that are coming to, is to apply what we call the mathematization of inquiry. Why am I saying so?
We can hardly hear you, Pastor Thompson. I don't know what's happening. Could hear you, but maybe not so clearly. I don't know exactly what happened. Kindly help to deal with that. So now this is where we have on our hands, and what we have on our hands, Mr. Aditayo. And one of the issues that troubles me, is that a good number of the people that we're talking about here, and there are those who have, and I'm sure you've heard quite a lot about this as well in your practice. A good number of the people here that we're talking about are young people. The issues that are involved here, you talked about the warlords that are sponsoring them, and people who are behind these things, and the sentiments of our people. Is there a meeting point anywhere where the warlords who are fomenting, financing all of these things, the system, the country, the laws, the states that you talked about, and even the people whose sentiments are at play? Do you see a meeting point where these things can just taper down, simmer down to a degree where we don't have to worry so much about ransom payments?
Well, there's an aspect of what Pastor Thompson mentioned, which has to do with our value system. We can't do this without the people. We need to carry the people along. and win the hearts and the mind of the people. If the people are not ready to support this, then the government will not be able to achieve anything. And for people to be able to have that confidence that we can support what the government is saying, government must also demonstrate enough willingness and capability that will give that assurance or comfort that the people are actually looking at. So, like you were saying,
I apologize. Before you continue, that trust element that you talked about, we all know, it's been greatly depleted.
Definitely.
It's like a bank account that's almost bankrupt. You just have to go to the bank. Otherwise, there is almost no withdrawal that you can make. So, in that light, is there a way to refund that bank account of trust so that people can actually be able to make withdrawal from it?
You know, we have to look at other countries that have been faced with similar problem. Look at Colombia, look at Mexico, and see how far they've been able to go. As it is today, even in Mexico, the drug lords are controlling different parts, and it's becoming very difficult. If you look at Philippines, they had a president, I think President Duarte also, who tried to, but the first thing Duarte did was to actually try to win the hearts of the people, to say, I am willing to fight drug. And I'm willing to ensure that your sons are able to live in a community. I need your support. So first of all, even though an awkward approach that international community frowned at, but we saw that along the line, the people supported, his approach, and they joined that war. I don't know which approach the Nigerian government will want to take, but it must be a method that must be able to win the heart and mind of the Nigerian people. And it starts with demonstration of your resolve as a leader that I want to put an end to this. Now look at this. See, the kidnappers, especially in the north central, northwest, they don't even select. In the southern part of Nigeria, they look for the rich. Initially, they started with expatriates, then guys in the oil and gas, then they start stopping vehicles. So that even those guys that are now picking people in 14-seater buses, 16, 18-seater buses, they are from a particular part. Because if you look at that, their modus operandi, for those who are from that, they don't care. The moment they pick you, they know that one way or the other, there's something about Nigerian society. We don't want our loved ones to die. We will rally around. That's why you see that someone who cannot even afford to eat very well end up paying 5 billion, 2 million ransom. The family will one way or the other gather, and they've tried that, they've seen that it's working. Look at the school in Kaduna, that polytechnic that was attacked. Look at how families were able to raise over 100 million. With motorcycles and the rest, and then you wonder, these are people, some of them does not even have a house, and some of them had to sell their house and pull this money together. They've seen that Nigerians will bring out this money, and that's why I'm saying that this is coming rather too late. We've allowed these things to fester. We've allowed every Tom, Dick, and Harry to now come into that business.
But that's not to say it's too late or completely hopeless.
No, it's not. That's why I'm saying that it will take us more effort. We need to do more for us to be able to, and it starts with the willingness of the leader to say, I'm ready to do everything possible to win the trust of the Nigerian people. Please, I want you on board. Join me in doing this, and it will. You'll see that Nigerians will pay.
That's a tall order. But Pastor Thompson, the issue of Nigerians looking at this as a profitable business, and it's all that way because the legal system, I have to choose my words carefully here, does not seem to take care of business in a timely manner such that it would prevent crime. It's like crime now pays. So the most profitable enterprise in Nigeria now, the most profitable enterprises, is either you go into politics or you become a criminal, because the chances of you getting caught and being brought to justice are very, very slim. So how do we start the process of removing criminality from a profitable business, status?
You see, there's a big trap that we're about to fall into. And that's why I said that we need to mathematize inquiry. What are the primary drivers of kidnapping in Nigeria? How do we separate it from the opportunistic ones? How do we separate it from those who came with the bandwagon effect? Now, are we sure that when we look at the facts and figures in Nigeria, we cannot trace where this kidnapping really came from, and the fact that somebody somewhere has thought out a process of destabilizing the nation towards a purpose? And once you don't think deep enough to know that we are not getting kidnapping in Nigeria because of drug pushers. We are not having kidnappings in Nigeria because it happens to be just lucrative. No, somebody is driving a narrative. We are in a war of terrorism. A war of terrorism drives narratives. The 85% of kidnaps for ransom that blew things apart in this country was based on an ideology. Now, once you ignore that, we are back again to the confusion between bandits, terrorists, and all that, and who is smiling at the end of the day while we are diverting attention from where the root of the problem is. Now, the opportunistic ones come because somebody is showing the nation, somebody is plotting for the nation, destabilizing the nation, using terror as a clinical instrument. The reason why he's going for common people is because media is a force multiplier. He wants the common person to lose faith in Nigeria. He wants the common person to know. Now, the same person is infiltrating the forces. The same person is controlling policies that terrorists who have been arrested can be deprogrammed and made to join armed forces. And we sit down and we think that if we don't deal with this as a systemic problem and think to the depth that it is, and then we start comparing cholera to Ebola, do we think that we will ever get a solution to this? So let's not make any mistakes about this at all. If we mathematize our inquiry and we look at what is going on in Nigeria, we'll be able to separate the opportunistic, lawless brigands that are a response. Now, let me say something to us. Nigerians are good people. So it's not poverty that is driving this thing. There's somebody destabilizing the nation, making sure nobody has a hope in the future. When hopelessness is joined to poverty, it becomes terrible. So when a set of persons mathematically and clinically plot out a cause, and it is working for them, if the thinkers in that nation begin to use templates that don't work, that are not situated with what we're dealing with here, honestly, we have just started. What we're seeing will continue to degenerate. I almost am crying because I have been privy to this at a personal level, standing with families, knowing the clinical, look, the people who are behind the kidnappings, the people who do the kidnappings, the people who collect the money, look, this thing has an intricate setup. The people who supply the information, the people who are really behind all this are extremely intelligent. And if we go and isolate them and don't pick the root of the problem, we're going to be going around in circles, like we have been going around in circles. So if Nigeria does not bring a superior ideology that will make its people patriotic, if Nigeria does not bring a superior value system, if Nigeria does not do all that, how will policemen be loyal? How will soldiers be loyal? Are we pretending as if we don't know the amount of infiltration that is going on in Nigeria?
Well, Pastor Thompson,
that is fueling this whole matter?
It's not that
it's
not that we didn't know where we were coming from. I want to believe that we all know that at some point in our country, we had these values, so much so that they are entrenched in the Constitution. You said it the other time that it's not just about the letters, because we already have them in letters. But even in the spirit, so to speak, in practice, you know, communities had a way of living in such a way that they took care of everybody's children like it's their own. I don't know if that system still happens now the way it was back in the day. Alera and I, at the beginning of the program, were talking about how we grew up, you know, as children, where there was communal upbringing. Everyone brought up everyone's children. But those values have petered over the years. They have tapered out of our existence over the years. How? If values, because you and Mr. Adeta ought to have, seem to have agreed on that, if values are as prominent, as important in the fight against terrorism, and we are putting the only, the last weapon or the last pillar we have on the line, which is hope that you talked about, how do we begin to reverse our steps to the point where we can begin to strengthen the values as pillars that can help us to win this war you talk about?
Well, we are going to have a lot more foresight in our planning, in our future planning. Let me tell you why. In 1980, Professor C.O. Taiwo wrote a paper on the future, on education in Nigeria, past, present, and future. One of the highlights of that paper he submitted was the fact that he quoted that in 1906, the gap between northern and southern Nigeria in terms of education was 50 years. By 1980, it had moved to 75-year gap. And the projection in 1980 was that by 1990, if nothing is done, the gap will move to 100 years. And the point was that once that gap in education moves to 100 years, it was said that the results would be gruesome. Now, at that time, they had not even foreseen the new kid on the block. They had not seen global terrorism coming into the country. So now that we have seen that this is what is going on, we are going to have to do something right now. We are going to have to put on our thinking caps, to put on what we call some disruptive, there has to be a disruptive solution to the systemic problems we have. We have 17 million street waifs in Nigeria. If we continue to do what we are doing, and we're talking about agriculture, taking them to the farm, listen, they will destroy this country. But this is a day and age where every nation in the world is acquiring artificial intelligence, nanotechnology. There are, listen, all we need to do right now is to realize that educating people doesn't mean they have to go through primary school, secondary school, and the old structures. I'm talking about disruptive, original thinking. When a nation realizes that, look, this is not going to work, we have an emergency. Certification. For instance, if you do it in such a way that a child is born, you mandate a degree of certain education. Let's look at what we call the Ajami writing and the education in northern Nigeria. How can we find thinkers who can draft that into the construct that we have right now and use it as a base to train those children to have skills? Let me give you a good example. I have an office in northern Nigeria for some years. I closed it recently. I took toys to Almajiris at one time. I was shocked to see how fast an Almajiri boy was so excited at seeing a drone. Do you know that we can take an Almajiri boy today, who is 14, 15, and train him to be a drone pilot? And if the policy of the nation is inclusive of innovation, where deliveries are being made by drone security services in every company, the fly drones and all that, certification works, we create employment instantly. And our Nigerian who is trained for 9 months will find an employment within Nigeria, gainful employment.
Okay.
Now, if innovative thinking comes into play, there will be creation of, I'm telling you the truth, disciplines and job descriptions that don't exist anywhere else in the world. But as long as we're not ready to think deeply enough, look, it was this man, the leader of Dubai, who said something. He said, look, when you are faced with a problem, you have two options. You can look at what everybody else has done and copy it, or you can choose to do some original thinking, to think of what nobody else has done before. Create an innovative solution. Drive it with discipline.
Is that to say, my apologies, Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Is that to say that we haven't been thinking? This issue didn't start in 2009, but it came to a head in 2009. Let me see if it's something that Mr. Adeta may want to take up, because, excuse me, I remember, sadly, many of these issues we talk about, insecurity and all, my mind always goes back to the Metatini days. And even days and years before that and the issues that have arisen over the years as a result of that. We've always had poverty and some of the issues. I know you want to speak to some of the issues that Pastor Thompson has raised, but if we are talking about disruptive thinking, isn't it too late?
You see, we're having too many problems right now, right in our hands. And you see, the one Pastor Thompson is talking is maybe after we've solved this problem we're having, they can start germinating. The truth here is that we have a major problem that we, first of all, need to stem the tide. And you see, we have to prioritize the problem that we have right now. You see, he spoke about probably some people are behind. You see, we need to get this right. I've handled so many kidnap cases, so I'm highly experienced. I've listened, I've spoken directly to kidnappers, so I'm speaking from point of experience.
Were you negotiating with them when you were speaking with them?
Somebody will talk to you. No. See, what we're talking about, you see, you're trying to rescue people. You first of all need to establish proof of life. You need to be able to get them to talk. Because the first thing the family want to know is if the person is alive. And it takes a lot for you to actually negotiate, to talk to them, to actually get to know if this person is actually alive, they are actually the real kidnappers that you want to talk to. Mm-hmm. You see, if you have had people around you kidnapped, you understand what I'm talking about. You must take, front role in trying to get a family member back at all costs. And you see, we need to get this clear here. We have kidnapping is an act of terror. And if you kidnap people, you are a terrorist. However, majority of the cases we are having are not from organized groups. They are from people, criminals, who have seen kidnapping as a profitable enterprise, are into it. Organized group carry out maybe less than 20% of all these kidnappings.
Okay, like the train.
Yes, those ones are organized groups.
Yeah.
That is an Ansaro group. And they're not doing it for ransom. They're doing it to negotiate for some demands. Yeah. Then we have the bandits in the Northwest. They are not organized groups. They don't have any ideology. See, they are carried out for economic reason. They want money. That's what all these bandits, whether they belong to yellow camp or they are criminals. And that's why they call them bandits. They are there to plunder. For those ones that are carrying out in the southern part of Nigeria, they're doing it because they want money. Ogun State, Ondo State, or your state, they're doing it for money. They are not organized terrorist organization. We need to get this right. And that's the reason why that we need to begin to address, if you're dealing with, a terror organization, then we know that, we have a particular approach that will. But this one has to do with us addressing issues in each environment. If you look at the genesis of the modern day kidnapping in Nigeria, the Niger Delta guys, these were populated by guys that were graduates. All cars are graduates. All of them, they are brilliant guys. We're not dealing with people as a result of because they didn't go to school or imagine, and they were fighting for a particular thing at that particular point in time, and they were collecting money from the oil and gas company, and they were paying, and they realized at a point in time that even employees are now submitting themselves to be kidnapped, so that they share the ransom with the assumed kidnapper. So what you say the oil and gas company did?
Have mercy. Did I just hear you right?
Yeah, it happened.
Why are you looking at me like that? Are you aware?
Submit yourself to be kidnapped. They collect the ransom, then the two of you share.
You share. We've seen we've passed through stages in Nigeria. And that's why you saw those companies now stopped getting involved.
Mr. Desayo, we spoke about...
I'm sorry, Alero. Pastor Thompson, are you aware of this one where you apply to be kidnapped?
You apply.
I can smell establishment 10 kilometers away. And when I talk about mathematization, I'm just saying that when people speak, if we are in a nation where there was statistics and charts that can back up what we are saying, what you're talking about right now may be sensation, but it is 0.01% of what we're dealing with. In fact, I will say with final authority here on this, I've studied this from 1999 and not from just textbooks. I'm talking about as the things were evolving. You are dealing with cell structures. You see, the point still is this. When you're up against someone who is much more intelligent than you are, you will find yourself somewhere thinking you are dealing with malaria fever, when actually you are dealing with a chronic case of COVID. What is going on in Nigeria has a lot more thinking, even the cell structures, even the reporting structures, even the things that he's talking about that look like they are random. Our fashion artist's daughter, the people who took her life, do you think this was just the opportunistic? I would like to find out what is the percentage of opportunistic kidnappings compared to that is tied to a purpose. You asked him a question just now about the train. And so that was on time. Now, how do these people operate? Do they simply operate like that, or do they also extend by creating cell structures, by outsourcing kidnappings? There's a lot of outsourcing going on. There's a bandwagon effect. And sometimes people forget. The bombing that happened in Sokoto, Kabiru left Snake Island in Lagos to go there, to go and carry it out. So we are talking about a systemic problem. You see, a wise man said something one day. He said, when you have a problem, you give him 1 hour to solve it. It's good for you to think for 55 minutes and use 5 minutes to solve the problem. Because if you rely on happenstances and don't sit back to reflect, look at the deep roots of these things, understand the movement. In fact, the truth is that there's so much we cannot see on TV. So let's not just delude ourselves whatsoever about what we are up against in the country, and the fact that if their narrative, which they are selling to us, sometimes somebody wants to destroy you and they will lowering your temperature using media as a force multiplier. In fact, sometimes they send people into media to confuse others. Nigeria has a systemic problem. The value system that we have cannot uphold all these things that we're talking about. If we don't solve the foundation problems, you keep picking leaves, the country will die. I have to say this with a lot of heaviness in my heart. I'll give you a good example of the kind of things that are going on all over the country right now. Today is Children's Day. Children in the part of one country and one part of the country there are doing this, that, and that. The person who came to my mind today was Christiana Oluwashisi, the boy. And the recent things are happening in the country. I was in Gombe, 2007. And when we took out our thorough investigations on behalf of the Christian Association of Nigeria, and we found out the complicities involved in what looked like it was children who were just being wild, we were shocked. Now, there are a lot of things we can't see on TV.
Okay.
But if we are planning to have a Nigeria tomorrow, I think we need to wake up and smell the coffee while there's yet time. Okay. And not be moved by emotions, but take clinical decisions and tackle problems.
This is all very scary, if you ask me. But Mr. Adetayo, you spoke about the criminals, the bandits, before we went to Pastor Thompson. What kind of message do you think that the arrest of the kingpin Evans, what kind of message do you think that arrest sent to those kinds of kidnappers, the gang of bandits who are just doing it for money?
I'm not even sure that those guys actually give a
damn.
Yeah, to what happened down south here. You see, these guys have been living in the forest, and the issue around these militants didn't start now. I remember when I was on many years ago, the issue around these guys in the forest. They tagged them then as Fulani militants in the forest then, that and of course, you know, the alarm was raised then that this will soon become
Fulani herdsmen, you mean?
No, militants.
Militants.
They call them Fulani militants then. Okay. That will become a major issue, and I'm talking about 12, 15 years ago. When this issue and then we saw that so many things happened in some states in the northwest, leading to, you know, some discontentment been brought about by political involvement and the rest, and we saw how that metamorphosed into, you know, ethnic crisis in places like Zamfara and the rest, and it snowballed into what we saw happening in Zamfara then, where some people accuse other parts of killing their people, rustling their cows and stuff like that. These guys are actually different from the normal herders. They're actually a threat to the herders too, because they are the ones who rustle the cows of the herders. at that particular, and there was so many, you know, street fellows from different countries joining there. It got to a point that kidnapping became so popular in sub-Saharan Africa that, you know, criminals from Mali, Nigeria, probably everybody started, you know, running into Nigeria to join one camp or the other because they can easily make money. We're talking about, say, we all speak from our background, where we're coming from, maybe things that we're involved with. And one thing I try to do as much as possible is to speak as a patriotic Nigeria and to be as honest as possible. And what we have as we speak, devoid of sentiment, 80% are criminals. We should remove religion, ethnic, away from what we have here. 80% are criminals. They have no attachment to any group. They have no attachment to anybody. They are just there to make money. The few of them that are organized groups, like the one we had of the train bomb, it was very clear. We saw it. The issue of Boko Haram, we saw it. But we had men and Niger Delta Defense Force, whatever in the Niger Delta, we saw it there. The rest, they are just criminal elements that are just trying to make money. And it has become so big that even we see people even in Lagos. A pastor was kidnapped late last year or early this year, and they picked him somewhere around the Agege area in Lagos and was kept for about three or 4 days. At the end of the day, they couldn't see any money to collect from the pastor, and they released him. And we see that same particular group kidnapping up to 4 other people in Lagos. And so you want to say that these people are working for an organized group? The answer is no.
So this speaks to the matter of unemployment all over again.
You see, it's not just about employment, it's about the value system. People want to make money at all costs. They want to drive Bentley, they want to, you see, we've seen, you know, a situation whereby we see popular musicians now, you know, the lyrics of their song, encouraging people to be so rich, to make money at all costs. They are flaunting.
If you don't get money, hide your face.
So you see young boys are now leaving secondary school to go and learn, train how to be a Yahoo boy, to make money. We now see Yahoo Plus, we now see, you know, ritual killings, all in the name of making money. So those are the ones who do not have access to guns. Those who have access to guns engage in kidnapping. Those ones who don't have access to guns
have laptops.
Yes, they go for laptops. See, the value system in the country, we need to begin. You see, where we now see, you know, look at the elections now. People, delegates are now being asked, you collected 2 million naira from me, you didn't vote. So being a delegate now, people will now be dying next election to become a delegate. It means that if there are 20 candidates, then if you collect 22 million from each of the candidates, you become a multi-millionaire overnight. It's not even about being a governor or House of Rep member anymore. Now it's now being about the delegates now. So we need to start addressing this issue as a nation.
Okay, well, Mr. Aditya, you know, as you said, I mean, maybe we are both looking at the same issues, but from different prisms, or looking at different issues from the same prism. You both agree about value systems here. The end game of all of this, what, in your opinion, is it? Let's come back to the issue of this ransom payment, the proposition to include criminalizing random payments, you know, as being proposed in that law. Do you think it'll solve the problem of kidnapping? Do you think it'll discourage?
As a single approach, it can solve it. It has to involve multifaceted approach. There are so many other things that we need to have mentioned. Our criminal justice system, it must go side by side with our criminal justice system, our capability and capacity to respond to crime. Now, you see that largely, it is the people who are rich that easily get, you know, law enforcement response. And the reason is that the number of kidnap cases in a day is so overwhelming. And the responders will have to look at which one will even embarrass them the most. Because which one will easily make media. Now, look at our divisional police.
You say that which one they want celebrated cases? right? That's what you just said now. Which one will, which one will attract media attention?
Social media is now very powerful. We've not seen that the best way for you to get attention is for you to make noise. You see, when somebody is kidnapped, today, you see a whole lot of people go into social media to try to pressure our law enforcement agencies to respond. The reason is that because they have so many cases, so you want to shout at the top of the roof so that yours can jump. Are you with me now? You know, on top of the order, so that
take priority.
take priority, so that you can quickly get response. Now, let me give you an example. Look at our divisional headquarters. Show me how many of the divisional headquarters has capacity to respond to kidnap cases. They don't have. Only few have that capacity. We talk about the manpower, people that have been. How many of them in each division supposed to have capacity like a police precinct, where you have your own SWAT team?
What kind of capacity?
Well-equipped legal interception
what kind of capacity can, because there might be a need for some intelligence here. If you can just take this on before I go to Pastor Thompson. Here's someone who has been in the situation, said that, you know, at some point they paid 900,000 naira to a particular, some person who kidnapped, a relative. You talked about our sentiments to relatives the other time. Now, they attempt to get through to this fellow, the kidnappers. But the kidnappers were using the phone numbers of other kidnapped victims.
Yes.
Once those ones are released, they are not able to get through to the kidnappers anymore, and the phone number of their own relative is not going through anymore. So, what capacity of the police that you're talking about can deal with that kind of intelligence, if not the intelligence that I think Pastor Thompson is talking about?
Right now, these criminals, at times when we try to do press release, or, we want to parade suspects, at times we'll try, our law enforcement will now narrate how those things are. In course of doing that, you tell the criminals what not to do. This is what this guy did, and they got caught. So it's for them not to do it the other. So you don't actually, expose your own method.
Which is what Pastor Thompson talked about at the beginning.
Yeah. So now the issue around capacity is not just about technology alone. We need technology. You also need the manpower. You need the training, as it is. Now, and you also need the people. In a situation where the government, the law enforcement agencies, they are aware where the criminals are, but they cannot go there. Most of the ones that happen around Kogi, Ekiti axis, they know where they are, but they can't go there, because a kilometer to you getting there, the kidnappers are already aware that you are approaching, because they have people in the communities that we allow them and tell them security agencies are. You see,
but this is what Pastor Thompson was saying.
If you remember the case of Mr.
organized.
Exactly. Remember the case of Mr. Ejiofor. Okay. The retired DSS director.
Yes.
That when he was kidnapped, police helicopter, law enforcement helicopters were, hovering around, but they couldn't do anything. They're hovering around because they have been able to use technology. They have technology, but they don't have enough to go around all the divisions to be able to cater for the numbers of cases they are receiving on daily basis. They don't have. But even when they are able to get through technology and get to know where these people, communities around those places are already compromised by those same people.
It goes back to the same. My apologies. It goes back to the same thing that Pastor Thompson was talking about: the network of activities, the organization, and everything.
Yeah. That was actually what I also said before. That I said that you need to win the heart and the mind of the people. It will surprise to support you.
It will surprise you.
How do you intend to do that? Because the criminals are paying them to give them information.
But we cannot just lose hope.
Okay. Pastor Thompson, I don't know,
We need to start
this law against ransom, exactly, this law against ransom payment thing that you're talking about, and you're talking about, you know, the active network of activities and all of those things. Well, it might surprise you, Mr. Adetayo, that that's not the only Mr. Ejiofor that is or was in detention or is it captivity? Or is still in captivity right now. So in terms of this dilemma that we seem to find ourselves now, Pastor Thompson, this bill is being proposed by government and the people at the other end. And Mr. Adetayo calls it the catch-22. If I give ransom,
I'm damned.
I'm done for. If I don't give ransom, my relative is done for. And you've talked about a whole load of things. Where do we stand now? And what would you propose to whoever now in order to at least try to stem this?
In 1 minute, Pastor Thompson.
Well, it's like this. It's not a bad idea. It's a good idea. But floating on its own, it could be a red herring. It could just be a distraction if it floats on its own. So we need to interrogate it properly and situate it and make sure that there is an overarching plan. There's a robust all-round plan that supports it and upholds it, or else it will just have served as a distraction while other things are good. And what I'm going to say in closing is simple, is that when HIV first arrived on the scene, people were dying of different diseases. It took a while to locate that actually underneath all that, it was HIV. And once HIV was located, then attention would be focused on it. So I want to say to us that we don't have a religious problem in Nigeria. We have a supremacist agenda that is working undercover. It's a hydra. It appears in diverse forms. It shifts shape. It's extremely intelligent. It is not localized in its thinking. It is globalized in its thinking. Okay. And the earlier it is, the better we will value the lives of our citizens.
Okay. Mr. Adetayo.
Last words.
Your last word.
We just have to come together and support the government, and government must do enough to actually win the hearts of the people, to bring them on board. And I hope that enough consultation was made with the Nigerian Bar Association regarding this, so that the issue of criminal justice system, which is important in the implementation of this, is also taken care of. Mr. Seyi Adetayo, former regional vice president, ACES, as well as a security expert, as well as Ladi Thompson, who is a security consultant and joined us from Vancouver. Thank you very much, both of you. And Pastor Thompson, please hurry back so that we can have you with us in the studio. Sunrise will be back in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Please join us.